I know. I know. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. What's up, guys? I'm sorry, what? My last episode, what about it? It's been how long? Oh, shoot. Guys, hold up. I can explain. I know it has been entirely unacceptable. However, a lot of transition, lots of turmoil and change, and honestly, I was feeling a bit discouraged with the performance of my last couple videos. But I'm so glad to be back. Regardless of all of that, welcome back to the channel. I am super excited to get this going again, and I want to hear what it is you guys want to see next. I want to say a sincere I'm sorry to all of you that I just kind of up and vanished without any trace, especially in the midst of Bleach Core 1 being finished and now Core 2 on the way. I thought it was as good a time as any to jump back into the game and pick up with a lot of the stuff that we left off with 9 months ago. So without further ado, let's get to it. With 1000 Year Blood War Core 2 currently airing, it's time to continue our Ichigo Explained series. Now, in case you're new to this is a series where we go through the major arcs in Ichigo's story, and we take a look at the major aspects of his powers that are highlighted in that arc. If you haven't yet, go back and check out those first few videos. This time, we are going to be looking at a strange phenomenon known as Fullbring. I want to kind of take a look at what it is, what it allows Fullbringers to do, and how it impacts Ichigo's powers and overall journey. And even though the Lost Agent arc in general tends to be at the bottom of the barrel for most Bleach fans, I'm gonna give a bit of a hot take and say that it's much smaller in terms of scale and its stakes, yet it is instrumental for Ichigo's development going into the final arc of the series. Don't believe me? Nope. Let's dive in and see if I can convince you otherwise. After his titanic battle with the deified Sosuke Aizen, Ichigo sacrifices all of his powers for those he has sworn to protect, becoming the hero they needed, but not the one they deserved. And with being a quote-unquote normal teenager who's still able to pick beef with about 5 guys at once effortlessly. This would be like Harry Potter actually getting expelled from Hogwarts and not being able to return after learning he's such a critical part of this fantastical new world he's discovered. Ichigo is essentially heartbroken at this point, at the fact that he's had to say goodbye to the Soul Society and everyone he fought alongside, seemingly for good, while he lets his friends take care of the Hollows in Karakura Town. It's understandably crushing for him to feel so powerless and alone, especially after giving everything he had to save the Soul Society from its worst villain yet. This is where we meet Kyugo Ginjo and the Fullbringers, who reveal that Ichigo himself possesses the ability known as Fullbring. Fullbring is, according to the main story, an ability possessed by those who are attacked by hollows in their mother's womb, gaining some of that hollow spiritual energy for themselves and granting them the ability to draw out the soul of objects around them. Now, I mentioned that this is what Fullbring is described as in the main series because the light novels Can't Fear Your Own World describe Fullbring as something categorically different, and whether or not you consider those canon is kind of up to you, but we will talk about that more later. By using this ability Fullbring to tug on the soul of different objects around them, say like a glass of Coke or the sky, this allows Fullbringers to achieve feats similar to that of the other races in Bleach like Hollows, Soul Reapers, and Quincy, such as flying, high-speed movement, increased strength and durability, and transforming objects they have a particular affinity for. Now, in classic Bleach fashion, these special Fullbring affinities have a name and a corresponding ability. For instance, Tsukushima's bookmark turns into a katana called Book of End, which quite literally allows him to insert himself into your past and literally mess with your entire history. It's incredibly broken. So, going back to Ichigo, he uses his substitute Shinigami badge as his Fullbring focus, and quite simply it allows him to manifest a lesser version of his Soul Reaper powers, which, to be honest, is somewhat underwhelming given the insane potential of the other Fullbrings, as I just mentioned with Tsukushima's Book of End. But it makes sense considering the object he's using. However, we of course know that Ginjo goes on to reveal his true nature and rob Ichigo of his newfound power and hope. utterly crushing him in the process. And this is perhaps Ichigo's lowest point in the narrative, as he entirely gives in to despair and even lashes out in a tearful, broken-hearted rage before the Fullbringers. It's at this point that the weight of the last 18 months of loneliness and depression and helplessness finally catches up with Ichigo, and the few people he thought he could trust in all of this have just revealed that they effortlessly played him the entire time. And so our calm, cool, collected, composed protagonist finally breaks, and tears stream down his face as he shouts at Ginjo to give him his power back. And then Rukia pokes him from behind. Once Ichigo has his Shinigami powers restored by the Gotei 13, his appearance is markedly altered, which we discover is the result of his Fullbring's lingering influence, adding these hollow-like accents on his Shihakusho and giving Zangetsu a much more proper look to it, rather than just being a fully naked butcher knife on his back. And while this moment of Ichigo's powers being restored to him is seen as his triumphant return to power, to be the defender that he's always wanted to be and couldn't be for the last 18 months, I also believe the change in his appearance is symbolic of his powers becoming more unified. Fullbring is an inherently hollow ability, possible with lingering traces of hollow spiritual pressure. So it makes sense that, having been influenced by the remaining traces of his Fullbring, Ichigo's Shinigami powers would naturally become more merged with his hollow powers, especially after White and Tensa Zangetsu merge during Ichigo's training to defeat Aizen. This is why we never see Ichigo use a hollow mask from this point forward, nor do we see him struggling with his inner hollow and the conflict between him and Old Man Zangetsu, and why he seems significantly more powerful in this post-Fullbring form. Both Shinigami and hollow have naturally melded together at this point. This is what we Bleach fans affectionately call Ichigo's Fullbring Shikai and Bankai form. Thus, with his new Fullbring amplified Bankai, he soundly defeats Ginjo, and we are now set to look ahead to Bleach's final arc, and the wild things we learned about Ichigo's power in the climactic finale. Now, before we end the video, I did mention earlier that the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels, which cover the post-Thousand Year Blood War time period and fill in a lot of blanks about the Soul King and things of that nature, actually go on to recontextualize what a Fullbringer is quite a bit. And even though their canonicity, whatever, even though their status as canon or not may change depending on you, the viewer and Bleach fan, I still wanted to take a look at what Can't Fear Your Own World defines a Fullbringer as and what that means for Ichigo. In the Thousand Year Blood War, we meet characters that happen to be the disembodied parts of the Soul King. First, there's Sternritter C, the compulsory Pernida Parkingjaz. Then we have Sternritter M, the miracle Gerard Valkyrie. And then apparently Mimi Hagi. And these are revealed to us as the left hand of the Soul King, the heart of the Soul King, and the right hand of the Soul King respectively. And though there are some theories about Gremy Thamo, Sternritter V, the visionary, being the brain of the Soul King, that has yet to be confirmed. But the Thousand Year Blood War seemingly introduces us to this idea that the disembodied Soul King and his parts would go on to gain sentience of their own and seek out their own identities? I don't know, it's all kind of weird. And the Can't Fear Your Own World novels only expand on this, defining Fullbringers as people who have lingering traces of the Soul King in them. If I'm not mistaken, I think the word used is like the nails of the Soul King. I don't know, his toenails. So essentially we have this new definition of a Fullbringer, that it is someone who has happened to have a piece of the Soul King embedded in them, which in my opinion makes more sense as to their whole ability to draw the soul out of objects. That makes a lot more sense coming from a Soul King perspective rather than a hollow perspective. And it also explains why the hollows were drawn to these children in utero. The hollows weren't the cause of that power, they are a side effect of the Soul King's power dwelling in them. I kind of like this idea better, as it makes the Fullbringers less weird and off to the side, and it actually gives them quite a bit more right to be as powerful as some of them go on to be. In other words, I feel like this definition legitimizes them much more, and it draws them into the larger story of the 1,000-Year Blood War and everything going on with the Soul King that much more. Now, I know this is definitely not most people's favorite arc in Bleach, but it's instrumental, at least in my eyes, to our main character's deconstruction and reconstruction, turning him into a truly solid character going into the world-shattering Quincy War looming on the horizon. Guys, it is good to be back. If you enjoyed this video and have thoughts about ways to improve and content you'd like to see, do all the things and press all the buttons. It really helps me out in a big way. And if you guys are ready for more Bleach content, I'll see you in the next one. Peace!